Back when Fireball Roberts was setting all kind of records in this famous gold and black Pontiac that was built by Smokey Yunick, Wendell Scott, perhaps the most successful black driver to ever run in NASCAR stock car racing, was trying to make his way in the sport. He was having a tough time of it because he really didn't have the kind of equipment that he needed to run up front. But Steve, I believe, had he had equipment like this, I believe that Wendell Scott would have proven to be a good race driver.
You know, Ned, he was just as much of a pioneer to stock car racing as Jackie Robinson is to baseball. And I guess in general, the fact that he's not more widely recognized is because stock car racing wasn't getting anywhere near the type of attention that it gets today. You know, you may remember a few years ago a movie called Greased Lightning, which starred Richard Pryor. Well, that was not a Hollywood script. That was the life and times of Wendell Scott.
Wendell Scott was born 63 years ago in Danville, Virginia. He developed an early respect for cars and engines, his father an outstanding mechanic. Wendell won 128 sportsman races during his career and claimed one Grand National victory, beating names like Petty, Pearson, and Jarrett. Wendell forged his racing apprenticeship as a whiskey runner up and down Tobacco Road. He built fast cars, and he outran the local police most of the time.
Oh, yeah. That's really how I got started in racing. They opened up a little small track in Danville called the Dixie Speedway, and they wanted to get some black drivers, and they thought they didn't know who to approach, so they went to the police department to find out what black guys had speeding records, things like that. So they told them they want somebody who could drive a race car to see me. So that's how I started racing.
You had to do things a little bit differently because you didn't have the financial backing that myself and a lot of other people had on the circuit back then, and there were stories that you would get out and make your own pit stop, change tires, or service your car when you'd come in.
Well, some of that was true, but it wasn't to the extent that they built it up to be. And you take my old Chevrolet, I had a sign on it, Mechanic Me, and people used to get a lot of kick out of that. But most of the work I had to do myself, and I had that on it. People would ask me who was my pit crew, who was my mechanic, I said me. And I was.
What was the biggest thrill you had in racing?
Well, I had a lot of thrills. It looked like it would have been when I won the race in Jacksonville, Florida in '63, but for a while it wasn't a thrill because it was 2 or 3 hours later before I was declared the winner.
They flagged Buck Baker the winner?
Yeah. Jack Smith second, and I was third.
But you knew that you'd won the race?
I had passed Buck Baker 3 times. I only made 1 pit stop for gas and didn't lose a lap, and I knew I had won. And Jack Smith had the fastest time, and if they had had him the winner, it would have been a question in my mind whether I had won or not. But him and Neil Castle got hung up, and they went out across the infield once, and I didn't know how long he stayed in the infield. But it wasn't no question in my mind about Buck Baker. I knew I had won the race.
You know, Ned, it wasn't until Wendell Scott was about 50 years old that he finally felt that he had a car competitive to run on this circuit.
He had to go way out on the limb, went in debt to buy that car, but he wanted to run competitively one time in his life. But as luck would have it, it didn't work out for him because he was involved in a 21-car accident here at Talladega that basically ended his career. We'll have that story after this. In 1973, Wendell Scott went out on the limb, borrowed money, and bought what he said was the best race car he ever had to show the world what he could do on a super speedway, and brought it to Talladega. But it was not to be his day. Someone blew an engine coming off of turn 2 here, and when the dust and the smoke had all settled, Wendell was right in the middle of it. He had gotten his car down on the grassed area, which he thought would be the safety zone, but it didn't work out for him. Steve Burns picks up the story from there.
Wendell Scott thought he had missed the worst part of the accident. His car is heading down here into the grass. He thought it would be a safe haven. But as his car continued to roll, a huge dust cloud had formed in turn 2. Out of that dust cloud emerged Lenny Pond. Lenny Pond hit Wendell Scott. Wendell Scott's career ended right here on the backstretch of Talladega.
The car I got hurt in at Talladega. This is a picture of the car. That was the best car I ever drove, but I didn't really get a chance to do my best with it because it was on the 8th or 9th lap when they had this real bad wreck and I was right in the middle of them. And it tore the car all to pieces.
That's amazing. So that's the one you got hurt in?
That's the one I got hurt in right there.
Of course, that's the kind of memories you don't really want to have, is it? But
I don't like to think of the financial part of it. Because I got hurt pretty bad, you know. Broke my leg in 7 places. Tore his arm all to pieces.
How fast were you running when that happened?
Well, I was getting along pretty good, you know. When I first got there, the car didn't run too good, and Glenn Wood and them told me if they didn't have no trouble, that they were going to tune my motor for me, and they did. And I didn't get back in it after they tuned it up until this Sunday when the race started. And that thing felt like somebody shooting me out of a slingshot.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was rolling. I had the car that I had qualified back there with, I had left all of them. I was head toward the front. And when Raymond Scott blew that engine, it screwed all over the track. And I got in it. But what happened, this fender right here, it still got yellow paint on the end of it.
Yeah.
Well, Lenny Pond clipped me in the rear and spun me. And that's what caused me to wreck.
Oh, they are.
It's right on that end, hit me right on that end and spun me around. And when he did, the car came right into me.
Well, when they start flipping at that speed,
yeah, that was a terrible
tough
wreck.
roll, wasn't it?
But Arrington run to me, and he went to run back to his car. Somebody hit his car before he got back to it and tore it off, Peter. And Larry, now what was the guy got killed at it the same year?
Larry Smith?
Not Larry. Yeah, Larry Smith.
Yeah.
He was driving for a guy, the green one.
Yeah.
A mechanic. Well, he came to me, he thought I was dead. But I didn't know I ever got knocked out.
Really?
I didn't know I got knocked out. When I knew anything, I was shaking my head. And when they tried to get me out of the car, I was hurting so bad. And my leg was broke off.
How long did you have to stay in the hospital?
32 days.
Did the wreck at Talladega, did that pretty well end your career in Grand National racing?
Well, yes, it really did. I went right much in debt because I hadn't been doing good. And my boys told me either get in the race or get out of the race. So I borrowed money on my property and bought me a real good car and got it tore off his first time.
And then, of course, you had some physical injuries as well, too. So.
Yeah. But it took me 9 years to pay for that car.
Is that right? Boy, you got a lot of memories to think back over and things I guess you'd say, well, boy, I wish I hadn't done that.
No, I'd do it all over again.
You would?
I'd do it different, though.
Yeah. What would you do different?
Well, I wouldn't try to make all the races. And when I go to a race, I'd run as hard as I could, as long as I could.
People perhaps didn't understand that you had to run the way that you did most of the time because you didn't have the backing. You had to try to make a living at it.
Yeah. The Sunday I won the race in Jacksonville, I needed $900 and some dollars real bad. I left home, I didn't think I had a chance. And I won $1,100 this Sunday.
The good Lord took care of it.
Wendell Scott would run but one more Grand National race, a 12th place finish at Charlotte. He was out of money. While at Wendell's garage, it was hard not to notice the way he kept reaching for his race car as he talked. the rusty sheet metal his most trusted and loyal friend. Wendell said that as long as he had one wheel on the track, he was in total control. The competitive fires still burn brightly in his steely eyes. He'll race every now and then on the local tracks in the hills of Virginia. His son's timing his every practice lap, watching how the old man dives into the corners, fiercely proud of the man they call Daddy. To watch Wendell walk among his old race cars is to watch a man admire his treasures. His garage is his real scrapbook, every car, every loose part with a memory solidly attached. Every one of these old racers with a history all its own, for they once glided around racetracks under the silky touch of the man who beat the odds every time the green flag fell. But it's back at the racetrack where you realize that he is at home, in his element, and he is accorded the respect and admiration that a man of his stature and dignity requires, the status befitting a true champion.
Thank you very much, sir.